Bulgaria will open to tourists from May 1. This was officially announced by the country's Ministry of Health. At a press briefing, this decision was announced by Acting Minister of Health Kostadin Angelov. In connection with the beginning of the tourist season, starting from May 1, we will allow access to the territory of the country for citizens who must have any of the 3 types of medical documents with them: a certificate confirming vaccination against coronavirus, negative PCR or some type of antigen test, a certificate of a disease transferred in the last 6 months, which is confirmed by a PCR test, said the head of the Bulgarian Ministry of Health. Note that according to the latest data on coronavirus, the situation in Bulgaria is relatively good. The daily number of cases, according to Worldometers, was 1,681 people. The number of active cases is 59,087 and is declining after the March outbreak. At the same time, Cyprus announced its sudden closure. The country is going into a deep lockdown for 2 weeks, which is why Russian tourists massively disrupt tours for the May holidays. Local security services have launched an investigation into the death of a British tourist who died under mysterious circumstances in Bali. The tourist allegedly drowned in the pool in his rental home, but the exact reasons are not yet clear. According to the Mirror, 40-year-old Gavin Andrew was found in the pool in the backyard of. At the same time, the first tourist in the pool was seen by an employee of the villa, but according to the publication, he did not assume that the situation was serious. The tourist was fond of surfing, and the worker suggested that he was practicing holding his breath underwater. The courier who arrived to the British raised the alarm. Then the workers took the man out of the water and called an ambulance. However, the doctors were no longer able to help him. At the moment, the Denpasar police are investigating the circumstances of the death of the tourist. The man's body was sent to a local hospital for an autopsy. It has already been found out that a few days before the tragic incident, the man injured his lower back when he fell on the beach and hit the reef. Various types of pain medications were found in the room. The police are continuing to investigate the circumstances of the incident. Violation of safety regulations in a restricted area. This is how the death of 2 young French tourists on the Indian Ocean Reunion Island is explained. According to France Info, 2 19-year-old students entered the foot of the active volcano Piton de la Fournaise on the island. At the same time, the authorities prohibit approaching this zone from April 9. The date of the beginning of the eruption. The search for tourists began the next day, since they did not get in touch with relatives. The disappearance of the students was announced by their family members, who were supposed to meet the young people at the agreed place, but they did not return from the trip. The search for students began on the same day. 7 people from the high-altitude gendarmerie and a helicopter were involved. However, the weather and the proximity of the volcano hampered the search. Due to thick smoke and fog, the rescue operation was interrupted several times. As a result, a day later the bodies of 2 Frenchmen were found near the cone of the volcanic eruption. It is believed that the cause of death could have been poisonous gases or a lightning strike. The bodies of tourists were sent for a forensic examination, the results of which will be known in a month. The local prosecutor, taking this opportunity, recommended to obey the instructions of the authorities, as well as avoid walks in the immediate vicinity of the erupting volcano, stay on known routes, monitor changes in the volcano, and warn acquaintances about your trip. Vacationers, who were placed in a hotel for self-isolation until the PCR tests were ready, had a difficult time. They complained about the terrible conditions and harassment from the staff. Details were reported by the Daily Mail. Upon arrival in Canada, tourists now need to stay in quarantine at the hotel at their own expense for a period of 3 days. This order came from the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, as a necessary measure in the fight against the spread of the coronavirus and its mutations. However, for travelers, such a measure turned out to be a real torture. For example, some travelers complained about harassment during quarantine. For example, in Montreal, a tourist reported that a man came into her room late at night and tried to rape her. The reaction from the local security service was extremely slow, the woman said. They only showed up 20 minutes later. The tourist, in bewilderment, added that she observes the rules of the country she came to, and the government did not even take care of the safety of foreign tourists. In addition, many vacationers complained about the poor quality of food during self-isolation. The dishes were cold, or, even worse, spoiled. It happened that the food had to wait for a long time. It looks like a prison, not a vacation, the vacationer described the time of self-isolation in the hotel. Note that a tourist pays for accommodation in an intermediate hotel at a cost of $2,000 out of his own pocket. Similar incidents have already happened. In 2020, a traveler from the UK faced harassment from an employee in a Cape Verde hotel. Then the hotel representatives ignored the situation.